What if the drive that helped you succeed is also what's slowly burning you out? In this episode, I'm joined by Dr. Amna Shabbir, a behavior change and wellness expert. We talk about the tension between ambition and well being. In practical ways, leaders can build emotional intelligence and self compassion without losing their edge. Let's get into it. Amna,
Thank you.
I will, as I promised, I'll jump right into our question. Can you share a little bit about yourself, who you are and what you do, and about your company?
Yeah, I am a physician and a behavior change and well-being expert. I also host a podcast. I'm a mom of two young girls, and I'm a wife of a solar entrepreneur. We're based in North Carolina. My company is Success Curated, and our message is that ambition and well-being can coexist. You don't have to sacrifice one for the other. I partner with high performers and organizations to replace performative box checking wellness with compassionate evidence informed strategies that actually create measurable action and do that through coaching, workplace well-being consulting, and professional speaking.
Wow, that's amazing. I mean, obviously, I've been to your session through Forbes Council last time. It was really helpful. Hence, I wanted to invite you here. But for the people who, because so I know a little bit of backstory how you started this, but for those of the people who might not be familiar with it, what inspired you to start, and then how did you get here?
Well, thank you for attending that session. It was so dynamic and of course like for having me here.
Mhm.
When I think about why am I doing this work that I'm doing, I would say selfishly or not, I want to help humans that are just like me. And these are high performers that are in pressure filled roles and high pressure roles can be found across the board. So I look at things in this way, and what inspired me going back is really my own journey. We are, looking back, I see myself as this human who is very ambitious, very capable, but also extremely tired. And that's really the point of reflection and pivoting. That's why I started this. There was a time in my life where I was going through a lot of mental health struggles with postpartum depression, anxiety. I was also going through burnout and moral injury, as well as other physical health challenges. To the outside world, I look like I had it all together. Everything seemed to be perfect. But on the inside, while everything was looking polished, on the inside, I was feeling a lot of pressure, a lot of responsibility, and this like constant drive to keep performing. Like I just could not rest. So that really was the focus of me starting to think about how I can help others. And I've always been fascinated with behavior change since I was before even medical school. And moving forward, I look back, moving forward through that phase, and as I think of things, we think if we can optimize everything enough, have enough productivity hacks or habits or discipline, we'll finally feel successful. Yet that's not the case, right? Because you can hit every milestone, but still not feel enough. That's how I was feeling. And that is really where I felt that there was this gap between having high achievement, but actually having fulfillment, being able to advocate for yourself, being able to actually turn off and rest. And then, of course, having a life outside of work, doing things that actually give you joy. And so, looking at all of this, what really is underneath for me and digging deeper was this psychology of perfectionism, particularly socially prescribed perfectionism, because we work and we work so hard to hold on to that image that the outside world sees. At least I did, from a space of high performance and perfectionism. But it does not have to be this way. And this is why I stepped into this role. And I love to work with individuals to allow them to slow down in a way that is meaningful, that
Mhm.
does not hurt their performance or their ambition. It is not a prescriptive narrative of wellness. You can actually care for your mind and your body together and go and do the thing that you love to do.
Yeah, I love that, and then I resonate with that a lot too, because I was going through last year, I was going through that, and usually a high performer and a business owner, entrepreneurs, you're always in that perfectionism people and high achievers, and I didn't even realize, I think just like you were initially mentioning, I didn't even realize how much mentally I was sick, and then I didn't want to accept it, and there's always a point that you have to step back and look at it, because like for me, it was like a different issues with my family. My father's getting sick, so I literally have to step back and slow down. I was like, wait a minute, am I okay? And I remember going through that process last year, and then when I attended your session too, I was like, oh, so this is things that people actually go through a lot. And for me too, it's like it took me a while to even get adjusted and accept it and slow down, and it's okay to slow down. And your actual session was also very helpful and validating for me as well. So, and I think it's very important, especially people in these days and high performers, especially people, the audience for this, they need to understand that mental health as well is as important, or maybe more important than physical health sometimes. And they both have to be balancing. And I think it's great that you're doing this work and making sure that people are aware of this.
I so appreciate you sharing your personal journey through this. And Miki, I will say I hear this so much whenever I'm talking about perfectionism and breaking it down the way like I did in the session in detail. So much of what we've been going through alone and suffering in the back of our minds, it just feels validated and witnessed. And when we talk about perfectionism at large, we think that we love it, right? Is it a celebrated flaw? Yeah, I'm a little bit of a perfectionist, but we'll say that with pride. But as you sit and you look at the data and what it does to your body and what it does to your mind, your physical health, anxiety, depression, burnout, and actually the paradox of perfectionism tells us that it's not great for performance either. You start to question, is this misery worth it? And so I really, and part of helping others release that part of perfectionism, particularly socially prescribed perfectionism, is us sharing our stories. So thank you for sharing yours and knowing that, we're not alone in feeling the way we feel.
Yeah, yeah, I appreciate that too. So moving on to, so I got to know you through Forbes Council, but I know that you probably in other business communities. If you have any recommendations, I'm always open to it. How has it being in a business community help you with your growth?
I think that when we look at entrepreneurs and folks that take risks, because that's what this is, and we're talking about high performance and perfectionism. Now, as a predominant perfectionist,
Mm,
my journey has taught me to be very failure averse. I went through medical education and training, medical school, residency, fellowship, work in an academic institution. Seems like a very conveyor belt model. There's nothing like that when it comes to entrepreneurship, which is both beautiful and terrifying. And this is where community comes in and plays such a remarkable role. I think that a community, I know that, not that I think that, community has added this element of grounding and orientation where you don't feel that alone. And if you are that high achiever who has learned that everyone has a curated, published image online, when you're actually in that intimate community setting and people are sharing what they're going through, you feel less alone. There is so much collaboration, there's so much connectivity, and it also gives you that courage, like, "Yeah, I can do that." So I really absolutely encourage people to not go through this entrepreneurship journey alone. Find your people, find the community. Sometimes you have to, take it takes a while to find the right fit, but you will. You don't have to
mhm.
do this life alone. Like there's so many amazing containers out there that you can explore. I know that Forbes is offering such remarkable opportunities, right? So one of those was the session that I was in, and the community engagement was like so intense. There were the messages that were coming through, and even going to that one specific moment, that 1 hour, everyone was bonded in recognizing and understanding how perfectionism was impacting them. Now, you walk away from an experience like that, you feel energized, you feel seen, you have tools actually what to do. So I think it's huge, and you're missing out if you're not part of a good community.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. This, I think you already answered a lot, but if anything to add to it. So, what are the most common pain points you see your clients struggling, and how do you help them?
Yeah. So as I look at my clients, and it is such a treat and privilege to work, whether I am in my one-on-one setting or I'm speaking from a stage, it is such a wonderful experience when you sit with somebody and help them curate how they can rest and they can achieve simultaneously. So I work with leaders, executive founders, clinicians, and a lot of things that they come up with. So you might be struggling with things which are hard to articulate. It can
Mhm.
even be, this is not it. I can't turn my mind off. I'm ruminating. I am having physical manifestations and mental manifestations of chronic stress that's now bleeding into my relationships, how I carry myself in a leadership conversation, how reactive I am. So one might see somebody who looks really polished from the outside, but in the inside, they're going through self doubt, second guessing, imposterism. And
Mhm.
that real difficulty, even when it comes to things like delegating tasks appropriately to either people that are above you, below you, wherever you are on the ladder, and the people pleasing, where it shows up in professional and personal settings,
Mhm.
where it is whether you're trying to make sure that all your younger colleagues like you, your employees like you want to be relatable, you want to be nice, but you're like, I'm not sure, is that actually happening? So, how can you be really confident in your communication? Boundary setting is another really big one, because when you are in that space of high achievement and perfectionism, you want to do it all, and you
Mhm.
really struggle to delineate where those boundaries are. And
Mhm.
then all of this goes into also time management and procrastination. So looking at health and well-being, stepping away, my approach is I look at health, well-being, and performance as basically the same thread. The way you show up inside your home with your partner, your loved ones, it's the same energy that you carry to your work and your leadership roles. What happened at home? It's so amazing and funny to me that when we're talking about performance and well-being, people think like, "Oh yeah, this is just leadership coaching. We don't have to talk about what happened in the house." Well, aren't you the same person? And
Yeah.
so all my experiences, my various trainings, I like to integrate that experience and really sit with somebody, because at the end of the day, you're one whole human, and it's really important that you feel treated that way.
Yeah, and that's really important, and I learned it through the hard way as well, because, like, when I went through, like, the family issues, and it shows, and even if you don't, you try to do your best to hide it, but even my co-founder or, like, even people who are working with, like, they later on, but they'll be polite about it, but later on, they actually when I tell them, like, what was going on through my life during that time, they're like, "Oh, that makes sense." So,
Yeah,
obviously showed. So
absolutely.
yeah, and it's it's I don't know if it's sad or it's very yeah, it's sad that people don't realize it, that it's very interconnected and you really have to take care of that part of your life as well as your professional, what you're showing on in your work life.
I think there's a lot of fear that surrounds this as well, because if you're not prepared, if you personally don't know how to regulate and be in your uh, command your own emotions and be in a space of executive presence, and then you have other humans that might share something with you. So what we think might be like, yeah, I don't want to know about your feelings and what's going in the house, might actually be fear driven, because what if somebody shares something deep and vulnerable? Then you're like, I don't even know what to do with this information now. And I understand that there's a place and space for everything. I'm not talking about people oversharing or trauma dumping, but I think it's really important for us all to get the help and acknowledge human beings in those help domains as one complete whole person.
Yeah, that's very important because sometimes I feel that way too. Because like, I don't wanna know know because I don't know how to handle it if I find out what's going on. So, that's actually very, very true too. This is my favorite question actually, is what would you say is the one skill that is absolutely essential for business owners, leaders, or entrepreneurs?
As a physician and behavior change expert, my primary recommendation is going to be emotional intelligence that is paired with somatic awareness. So it's not enough just to understand strategy. You need to understand your physical and mental state and command it, because everything else is going to filter through that.
Mm,
How your body is reacting in spaces and places that need, that those critical presence that needs to happen right now. When you are able to recognize and regulate your mind body responses under pressure, everything else follows from there, right? And also, because you are in those places that are emotional roller coasters, whether I could say I would feel the same way when I'm picking my kids up and something's happened at school, Or I'm in the boardroom and I have to present to a large group of individuals. It's a very serious conversation that's happening. If I am stressed and
Mhm.
my fight and flight responses are kicked in and I don't know how to put them down, my voice is going to shake. I'm going to just like, my stance is not going to be open. So my physical cues and the energy that I'm bringing in the room is not going to be executive at all. And so if you can regulate both your physical responses and your mental responses, I think is so, I mean, what else is going to be there, right? And of course, there are techniques that follow through there, but a lot of times what people do is they just solely focus on here's a mindset shift, here's a mindset shift. We know that complexity in terms of whether it is having a positive mindset overall, whether it is your presence, it's not just a simple mindset shift. And a lot of the work that is around floating on the internet really kills nuance. It is important to harness the wisdom of your physical body because that's the physical form that carries you everywhere and your mind. And together, as you have that somatic awareness, like, oh, I'm walking into this, for example, the same space that I was sharing before, I'm walking into this boardroom. My heart rate is really up. I'm sweating right now. I'm anxious. What can I do? Like, just that awareness. Oh, okay, all of this is happening to me. Can I just pause for a second and take a deep breath? Can I do some breathing regulation? Just something simple like that. It doesn't have to be complex before just rushing into that conversation. Now you walk and you're holding yourself the way you should be holding yourself. And you're able to also make better decisions that way. So I think emotional intelligence paired with somatic awareness can be huge. And a part of that is also metacognition, right? Also, when you are aware, you're also aware of the way you're thinking
Mhm.
and you're aware of how you're thinking about your thinking, which
Mhm.
is huge. So awareness, it will always be the key.
Okay, that's very deep and very, very true. And a lot of times that I hear a lot of different ones. It's just true for the entrepreneurs like grit or like persistency, but those all can't be done without having emotional awareness, awareness of yourself and what's going on with your actual physical body and mind. So that's really important. And is I know you mentioned about just stepping back and breathing and we think about it. Is there any other things that you do to make sure that your awareness is intact and then actually improve it?
Yeah, so I look at things in two different ways. One are practices that we can cultivate on a daily basis. Those can be, this is my long-term plan. And
Mhm,
then I have my backup plan. Okay, now I'm stressed. Now what do I do? So if I look at my long-term plan, I periodically will journal. I am
mhm,
not one of those people who's going to claim every day I wake up and I meditate and I journal because that's just not the season of life that I am in. And that's just feeding more into the perfectionistic narratives that we touched on earlier. But periodically, so at least 3 to 4 times during the week, I will journal and I'll do a complete thought download and just look at the narratives that are playing in my head right now and use them as a data. I just look at journaling as data. And again, honoring the season of my life, I'm not sitting in some corner with pen and paper with a cup of cozy coffee and, that idyllic. I am literally journaling on my phone. I have an app on my phone. I'll pick up the dictation and I'll
mhm,
just dictate it out into the microphone. Like, I'm feeling this, this, this. So now I've caught my thoughts and my emotions in real time and it
mhm,
makes me feel lighter. And we know that there's data after data that shows journaling is so powerful. And there is data actually putting pen to paper is helpful. But for me, I want to do things that are doable in whatever space I am in. So that's a longer term practice that I do. And that gives me a recognition of patterns that I'm having. I am constantly ruminating about a specific topic. There is a decision in my business that's weighing me down. And I can easily pick that pattern. If you look back, this is just data. And
mhm,
how do we make an intervention without having data? So I just look at it like that. When I realize that there is a decision or a place or a person that has constantly been depleting my energy over the last 4 to 8 weeks,
mhm,
I ask myself this question: how are we going to address this? So either we're going to get rid of this problem, we're going to minimize exposure, something has to happen. So journaling is a really good way for me to actually understand where my energy is going. So that's my longer term practice. And again, 3 times check in on the phone, just dictate, make it doable. The other is acute stress. Okay. I've just received bad news or I just am angry or upset about something. What do I do now? And I'm walking into this conversation where I'm supposed to have my calm and my composure and my rational brain working. I like to use heart map techniques, and I work with and my clients using those as well. So they really just kind of harness the cardiocognitive energy. So there is a practice that's called attitude breathing,
Mhm,
and I step I step back and I practice that. I try to focus my energy on an area of my heart, and basically, you're visualizing your breath go in and out through your chest area and you think of the emotion that now that's really weighing you down,
mhm,
and you try to replace it with what you want to feel. Now, sometimes I'll say, I'm angry and I want to replace it with gratitude, or I am frustrated right now and I want to replace it with confidence because I'm going into this meeting. It sounds very, simple, but if you actually all you need is that pause, and
mhm.
then you breathe, and the way that technique goes through, you follow those instructions and you just breathing, inhaling and exhaling this different frame and energy. You're allowing your body's parasympathetic response to come up, which is your rest and relax, and sympathetic response, which is your fight and flight, to go down. And so you just after walking and you make this technique a routine as well, it also helps. So pairing both of those, it allows me, but for acute stress, for anybody listening, you always should have something that involves your physical body to reset the clock for you to handle whatever else is coming your way. It is really hard when you're angry. I mean, you probably relate with me. You're angry, you're frustrated, and then you're telling yourself, if only just think positive. When has telling somebody to be calm actually calmed them? So it's kind of like do the same thing for yourself. Pause and take that deep breath before you walk into that room.
Yeah, that totally works. I mean, I've tried it before I go to a conference and I'm speaking. I literally have to go to the back door and start pausing and breathing. I did the breathing exercise. And that talk, I remember getting compliments how they were like, they're surprised how calm and well spoken I was on that one. I was like, oh, really? And it was like, what did I do differently? Oh, I did the whole breathing exercise right before I went on the stage. And it really works. So I resonate with that a lot. Oh, where can people learn more about you and connect with your work?
Well, thank you so much for this opportunity. You can find everything on my website, which is success-curated.com. I am pretty active on LinkedIn. My name is Dr. Amna Shabbir over there, and you can come connect with me. I love to hear from folks. And I encourage you to watch my TEDx talk, which is Perfectionism has a solution. It's not what you think. It is 10 minutes and 31 seconds masterclass on perfectionism.
Thank you so much. And then I'll put the links on the show note. And if you have anything else to share, send me my way and I'll add it to that. And it's just like so much fun and so educational. So
Thank you so
yeah.
much.
And anything else that you want to add before we depart?
I just want all our listeners to know that they are doing great. They are doing great. And it's probably been a while since somebody said this to them in an objective way from the outside. I already know that you're doing great and I invite you to tell yourself that and practice self-compassion the next time you are hard on yourself for the things that didn't go the way that you wanted them to go. Just ask yourself, how would I talk to a loved one who is in this similar position right now? Would I be kind to them? Would I be objective to them? Or would I actually berate them? And invite self kindness because you are doing amazing work.
All right. I love that. Thanks again.